We have made it to the offseason here in year number 1 of the Virginia Tech Dynasty here on EA College Football 26. Today we are going to go through everything that the offseason entails, setting us up for the start of season number 2, which will be coming in the next episode. Last time around, we crowned a national champion going through our semifinal games, and of course, the championship, which was won by Texas Tech, defeating Alabama 37-20. The Heisman Trophy winner, Kieran Riddle, was not able to complete the storybook season, losing in the championship to the Red Raiders. Riddle still projects to be the number 1 pick, and he still played well in the championship. It was arguably outdone by Colin Westwood and then the national championship MVP, Caleb Hobbs, who had 200 yards. You could argue that the best player of the playoff didn't even come on the Texas Tech offense. Jermichael Bredesen's pick 6 was the play of the year at the end of the first half, turning what could have been a 3-point game into a 3-score game. That was his second career interception. The first one came in just the prior matchup against Ohio State. So Texas Tech obviously finishes as the undisputed number 1. They are the national champions for season 1 of the series. As we go into the offseason now, I will breeze through some of the stat leaders across the nation while talking about what to expect in today's episode and the coming weeks into season number 2. First and foremost, though, I do appreciate all the patience. The reason why season 1 for this series was fairly slow was because I've had to keep things even with the Browns franchise on Madden 26. Obviously, we started the Browns series a month after this one. So because of that, I had to move things a little bit slower over here. Well, now the 2 series are even, given that we are in the first off season of the Browns franchise. So because of that, going into season number 2 and beyond, we're going to be able to move a lot faster here in Virginia Tech, which is exciting. I know that's what you guys want to see. I want to move faster, of course, as well. Throughout the course of the offseason, something different from this series compared to the Kansas Dynasty is that I felt like I had a lot more control across the league, and that's because of the fully fictional rosters. I know some of you guys were skeptical that we are using entirely fake players. I think at the end of season number 1, we can confidently say, or at least a lot of us, that it was a good choice because I had a really fun time following these guys, and we're going to continue to, whether they are entering the NFL or they are returning to college. But nonetheless, I felt like I had a lot more control because I was able to edit ratings. That way, I can choose which players to declare for the NFL draft. It's not based on who is a high rating, but it's based on who actually played well and who projects out to be a good NFL player, who's going to be an NFL-level athlete, per se. We couldn't do that in the Kansas Dynasty because I couldn't edit the ratings. The same applies for the transfer portal. I had more control of sending certain CPU players into the portal. With our team, for example, Carmen Drake is a guy who I think is ready for the NFL draft. He's a true junior. His rating probably is not quite high enough to declare anyway, but now I can edit it so he can actually go to the NFL as he should. As we look at our team through the offseason, the big storyline is going to be the quarterback position. Clyde Poole's eligibility is over, and that means we have to find a replacement. It was a phenomenal senior season, though, for Clyde Poole, especially dealing with all the adversity, coming back from the injury, his Kansas team winning the national championship without him. But Clyde Poole had a great season. If he had played one more year at Virginia Tech, he probably would have broken the school touchdown record set by longtime NFL tight end Logan Thomas. In terms of rushing yards in a game, he was pretty close. He had over 200 in the bowl game against Western Michigan. He set the single-season record for passing touchdowns. His yardage and touchdown total through the air is nearly identical to the 2 seasons that Michael Vick started at Virginia Tech, and Vick ended up being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. I get the NFL and the college game was different 25 years ago, but it is worth noting. Aside from Poole, Mark Armstrong was the leading rusher. We're expecting to bring him back for his senior season. Nazir Ismail and John Trey Hickson, of course, were the top 2 receivers. Hickson will be graduating, going to the NFL. Ismail, though, should be back for his junior season. But we're going to lose a lot on offense aside from Hickson and Clyde Poole. Brennan Marbury, the tight end, is gone. Trevor Adams, there's a chance he enters the portal. Mark Armstrong, there's a chance he enters the portal. On the offensive line, we could lose guys as well. Obviously, not having a quarterback is the big thing, but we could be losing multiple other starters on this side of the ball as well. Defensively as well, we're going to be losing some key guys, although I think we have the roster talent and the depth behind them to make up for it a little bit easier. But we're going to lose our leading tackler, Noah Singleton, who had a great year. Carmen Drake, who led the team in TFLs and sacks. I would expect he declares for the draft. Geronimo Rodriguez could toy with going into the transfer portal, so if he leaves, our top 4 sack getters would be gone. The secondary should look largely the same. We don't have any key seniors in the secondary, and I don't think anyone is going to transfer. Ashton Lemon, we will be losing our kicker. He only missed 1 kick the entire season, although we do have a replacement lined up. And then the punter Warner Troutwine should be back. So before we get to players leaving, we got to talk about coaches leaving. The highlights include Kenny Dillingham, back-to-back great seasons at Arizona State, leaving his alma mater for LSU. Mac Leftwich, the Texas Tech offensive coordinator, did a great job there. He'll be the head coach at Texas because Steve Sarkisian has flip-flopped to the rival, Oklahoma. Jamie Chadwell to Missouri. Alex Wall goes to Texas A&M. Clark Lee stays in Tennessee. He'll go to Middle Tennessee State. And then Florida State hires Shane Beamer. They fired Mike Norvell, who's going to UCLA. So plenty of changes in terms of the staff across the nation. Now it's time to talk about players leaving. And we hinted at some of these, at least in terms of the NFL draft, yesterday in the Browns episode. So I kind of already spoiled whether or not Carmen Drake is staying in the draft class. The answer to that question is yes. Unfortunately, he is not sticking around. I did up his rating a little bit to make sure he would leave because there's not really a reason for him to stick around. He's gotten better and better each and every season here at Virginia Tech. The former 5-star, 10.5 sacks this year, currently a projected top 50 pick. He'll probably go at some point in the second round, which is more than enough money on the table for him to choose to leave us. We certainly wish him well after a great season. 5 players transferring, not large quantity, but certainly quality. Mark Armstrong, the starting running back, headlines the list. He's looking for a school with a bigger brand, more of a nationally known program, so he wants to go to a bigger school. It was a challenging year for Armstrong. He's a really good player, but he was banged up throughout the course of the year. He did play in every game, and I give him credit for that. But it never really felt like he was consistent. He had the crazy game against Virginia, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. But the consistency was never really there because I feel like he was never fully healthy throughout the course of the year. I'll be pulling for him, although I'm certainly disappointed he's gone because now we have to figure out who the RB1 will be. Darius Penny, this one is a surprise. He also wants a bigger brand. This one shocks me, though, because Penny is a 3-year starter. He's one of our team captains. We have 6 captains, 4 seniors, and 2 juniors. It means a lot for you to be a captain before your senior season, so it was a major honor for Darius Penny, which makes it all the more of a blind side that he's leaving us. 95 tackles, 10 for a loss, and an interception. This one stings, not just because he's a good player, but his leadership in the back end of the secondary. Geronimo Rodriguez is transferring. He wants a team with higher coach prestige. I mean, Coach Teamer Sr. went 8-5 in his first year. Is that not good enough? Rodriguez had a great year, though. He finished second on the team in sacks with 7. Really, really impressive in the middle of the defense. In only 1 season here, he started his collegiate career at Wisconsin, so he's going back into the portal for a second straight year. We're also losing a couple of depth guys. Jasor Bilal, good special teamer. He also cares about coach prestige. And then Emeka Ejiritutu wants to go somewhere where the playing style is a better fit, although, I mean, is he really going to play? A lot of seniors gone. Jensen Diglio, the talented pass rusher. Ashton Lemon, our great kicker. Brandon Marbury at tight end, only 1 year here at Virginia Tech, but a very solid one. 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. He'll probably get drafted, I would guess, in the 4th or 5th round. Noah Singleton, the man in the middle at linebacker, led the team in tackles, 4-year starter, multi-year team captain. We will certainly miss him. He'll be going to the NFL. Jontre Hickson as well, another team captain, 903 yards, 9 touchdowns. He's going to be probably a day 3 pick. Xavier Haynes, very good rotational edge rusher. And then we get to Clyde Poole. I am certainly going to miss him. It has been a wild journey from start to finish of his collegiate career. 3 years as a starter at Kansas as a lowly ranked 3-star recruit. Gets hurt, misses the year, team wins the national championship, and he goes to Virginia Tech and plays really well, silencing the doubters His play style is very unorthodox. He is truly one of one at the quarterback position. He will probably be a day 3 pick in this draft. It's hard to bet on a guy who's undersized like him and is often inconsistent like him, but he is a really unique player who I think has a chance to be quite solid in the NFL. In terms of players leaving across the country, some teams really got hit. Georgia had 6 players declare for the draft early as underclassmen, so that doesn't even count the seniors. We certainly expected guys like Spencer Turpin, Stephon Battle, and Cassius Boulder to leave. They're all going to go in the first round, but it's still a big hit. I've got more bad news in just a couple of minutes for Georgia, so buckle up. The national champions have 2 guys declaring early. Jermichael Bredesen, who really was not on NFL radars until the playoff, where he was awesome, along with Caleb Hobbs, who cemented himself as a first-rounder in the national championship game. The big story here with the players declaring for the draft, or more so the lack thereof in this case, is SMU. The only underclassman declaring is linebacker Devin Sosa, so that means Tyree Wells, the redshirt junior quarterback, will return for his senior season. You're probably thinking, why is the guy with 53 touchdowns and 2 interceptions staying in school? Well, for one thing, passing stats in this game are a little bit inflated. But Tyree Wells wants to come back to school, wants to help lead his team to a championship. He convinced all of his top receivers to stick around. The first 3 guys all tested the draft waters. Calvin Farrell thought about going into the transfer portal. All of those guys are going to be staying. Travis Faust, I think, sticking around is the big one in particular. I think he's going to be a really good prospect going into next year. The biggest loser, again, is probably Georgia. In a stunner, their starting quarterback, Hoppy Reynolds, and their top receivers, Sir Odiah Nobles, are both entering the transfer portal. I did not see this one coming at all. Those guys seemed like they were going to stick around. They both had great seasons. They fit really well in that system. Nobles is projected to be a top 5 pick in next year's draft, but they are both leaving. So that brings us to recruiting. The transfer portal is open. Carmen Drake officially in the NFL. Noah Singleton drafted as well. And in the Brown series, I imagine we'll see Jontre Hickson get picked, Brandon Marbury, Clyde Poole, maybe Jensen Diglio. Currently, we have 15 players in our recruiting class, 13 4-stars and 2 3s. So we have 15 high school prospects currently and 20 open spots available. I would like to use a lot of those 20 slots on players from the transfer portal. I want to build our team through the portal. So how I'm going to go about doing that while retaining most of these freshmen is I'm going to focus on a lot of the key battles right now with guys like Burden and Ware. Everybody else who has not committed yet, I'm going to take off the board. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get them. The idea is that we're now going to have 16 open slots for transfer portal players, and we're going to try to convince those guys to come here. We're not going to get all 16. We'll be lucky if we get maybe half. And then with the remaining spots left, we'll go back to some of those freshmen. This year's portal has 3 5-stars. Maurice Shiroga, the guard from Georgia, Trey Nolan Reese, the edge rusher from Oregon, and Judah Yesufu, a wide receiver from Liberty. In terms of the quarterbacks, Jerobold Hannock from Arkansas headlines the list. I think he's going to be a really good NFL prospect in a year or two. We didn't get to talk about him a lot this year because Arkansas wasn't very good, but he's really athletic. He's really efficient. Ole Miss, Alabama, Oklahoma State, all in the mix. He could return to Arkansas as well. Maxwell Logan from Temple had a really good season with the Owls, multi-year starter there. Played with Moses Lexington at Temple before he transferred to Alabama. Ohio State and Notre Dame look like the 2 frontrunners. Both of those teams obviously just lost their quarterbacks. Logan actually started his career at Ohio State, interestingly enough. Arkansas has both of their backups in here, which is a little bit ironic. Galeo Barron, a rising star at Middle Tennessee State, over 4,600 yards. Tennessee doesn't really make sense because they are bringing back Kamari Fisher, but Ole Miss, Ohio State, I could see either one of them looking at him. Denny Love and Hoppy Reynolds, though, I think are the 2 best quarterbacks in the portal. Love finished in the Heisman voting in the top 5. He'll be leaving Akron looking at Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. I think all 3 of those schools make a lot of sense for him. And then Hoppy Reynolds, the biggest surprise of the offseason. I'm shocked that he left Georgia. But LSU, Alabama, both in the mix. It looks like he'll be staying in the SEC. Solomon Sifu, the freshman from Hawaii, another name to watch out for. He'll probably go to a West Coast school. I'd like to see Stanford or Oregon get in on that one. None of those guys are interested in us, you may notice, though, so we're really going to have to dig at quarterback. The other super strong position that this portal is rich in is wide receiver. Sir Odiah Noble's, of course, the headliner here. I believe he is the best player in the portal and will certainly be in the conversation to be the number one pick in a year from now. Clemson and Tennessee have the early lead, but he doesn't seem to care about the size of the school. USF is in the mix. They retained a lot of their key guys other than Jalen Davies-Landiner on offense. So that includes quarterback Josh Scarborough not entering the portal, returning to the Bulls for his senior season. Wide receiver, like quarterback, is a major need for us. There's a lot of depth, but none of those top guys are interested in us seemingly at all. It's no secret that we're in a rough spot at quarterback with Clyde Poole gone. Nolan Roll and Gabriel Iguanagu both played a little bit last year, and they both sucked. Akeem Okafor was the best of the group, but I'm not overly confident in him being the starter. We do have Cam Kingsbury, the four-star freshman with elite development. The goal is for him to be the long-term quarterback, but he's also a freshman. He might not be ready yet. I would like to get a veteran quarterback, if possible, who can compete with Kingsbury and probably start early on. There are a few options who kind of fit the billing here. We'll start with Sonny Wilkin. Not really a veteran. He'll be entering his redshirt sophomore season, but he was the starter at Southern Miss last year. He played pretty well. Completed 62% of his passes, only threw 4 interceptions. He seems to want to go to Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss is going to shoot a little bit higher for some of the quarterbacks who are ranked ahead of him. But if they strike out, I think Sonny Wilkin would be their backup plan. Wilton's Samale Viunga from Tulane is an interesting option. He plays a very erratic style of football. Only completed 59% of his throws, 14 interceptions. He's a good runner, though, a really good runner, and he fits the system that we've built with Clyde Poole. Zeke Morton played a little bit at Army last year. I'm not going to put him on the board yet, but this is more of a fallback option if we lose out on the other two guys. I wouldn't mind looking at a youngster. Jalen Smith III from Tennessee was just a 5-star true freshman a year ago. I thought about him, but I think we're going to start with a different player. Ace Morgan from Clemson, a 4-star who just redshirted this past year, 6'3", 193 pounds. He wants to play, and he would certainly at the very least get a chance to compete here. So that's 3 quarterbacks that we've put on the board, a upcoming sophomore, an upcoming junior, and then a redshirt freshman with Ace Morgan. We still need a lot more than quarterback, though. We haven't really recruited skill position guys very well this year. Amir Alba, I like him at running back, but we just lost our RB1, Mark Armstrong. The top 2 running backs in the portal, though, their recruitments are wide open. Evan Sutton, we don't have a shot at. He's going to go to one of the big schools. He missed most of the year with an injury at Marshall, but I think he's really good. I think he's going to be a high NFL draft pick probably next year. Alabama, Georgia, Oklahoma, probably going to be one of those schools who ends up with him. Chris Mickens, though, I think is interesting. Coming from UMass, ran for over 1,600 yards last year. He wants to play, and as I look at the teams in the top 5, Alabama doesn't need a running back, and I think they're going to go after Sutton anyway. Notre Dame does not need a running back. Amari Blue, as a freshman, just ran for 200 yards in a playoff game. Not to mention, Mickens is a local guy. He's from Maryland. So I'm going to put him on the board. I don't know what to expect, but it's worth a shot, especially considering none of these other running backs, for the most part, are open other than Earl Matlock. A little bit down the board, Ramir Clark from Maryland. I thought he had a solid freshman year. We're going to tack him on. Look who it is. It's Mark Armstrong. We could try to get him back if we wanted to. I'm not opposed to the idea because I really like Mark Armstrong, but I think he would want to leave. I think he would want to find a new school after this year was very up and down. He clearly wants to go to a bigger program. Ohio State and Alabama are high on his list. Texas Tech, who needs a running back, is there as well. So we're going to start with Clark. We're going to have Mickens on the board, and then Jaden Granger, who had a really nice year at Jacksonville State. He's kind of the fallback option, but he's very good in his own right. So Chris Mickens obviously will be the guy we really try to get. I'm not really expecting it, though, because all it takes is one of those big schools. I think Oklahoma State would be a good fit. All it takes is for someone like them to really overpower us. Wide receiver, I think, might be the biggest position of need on the roster. Tight end as well. We really need pass catchers because we don't have a lot. We do not have any wide receivers in this recruiting class currently. We do have a couple 3-stars who we're going to go back to probably, but those guys aren't ready to play. All of the 4-stars we went after are going elsewhere. We do have tight end Gideon Zavala, who I do like, but again, it's bold to ask him to start immediately. Who knows if he's going to be ready? At wide receiver, Jontre Hickson, of course, is gone. Nazir Ishmael probably will only be here for one more year. And then behind him, Trevor Adams is a good slot player, but we need another starter on the outside. I don't think we have that currently on this roster unless one of the redshirt freshmen takes some massive leap, which feels, I would say, less likely than likely. So we need a starting wide receiver bad. We don't even need to go after necessarily young project players. We need a guy or two who can play immediately. All the top receivers are not overly interested in us, unfortunately. They want to go to the bigger program, so we're going to have to dig a little bit. Daniel Caffrey will be entering his junior season coming from the University of Iowa. He had a good season last year, 59 catches, 851 yards, playing with a young quarterback. His skill set is very different than Nazir Ishmael, so I think the two of them can complement each other pretty well. Dexter White from South Carolina averaged nearly 20 yards per catch, also with shaky quarterback play. And then Xavier Bacon from Georgia Southern. He was kind of the depth guy last year, sort of their third receiver. If he can be the third or fourth receiver for us, I think that'd be a good get. At tight end, again, I'd like someone who can start. A couple of guys at the top who are in 10th, but they've already narrowed their list down to 8. So instead, we're going to look at Jack Stetsko from Bowling Green. This is certainly a projection with him. The numbers aren't necessarily going to pop off the page, but he's 6'6". He's skinny, but he's really athletic. I think he could take a leap for us this offseason. We're not going to go after any offensive linemen because I think the line is in a really good spot. We're bringing back pretty much the same group as last year, and we recruited very well on the offensive line this season. As for the edge rushing room, we lost our top 3, so we're going to have to get some replacements. Emmanuel DeRougy from Central Michigan, Tevin Charles from Jacksonville State, and Elion Cashman from Georgia State are all good veteran options. I decided to add DeRougy and Cashman on the board, and then I wanted to look at a younger guy as well. Yoshi Kamara was a 5-star at USC, very athletically gifted player. I figure we'll add him on the board and take a dart throw at this young man. We're not going to look at any linebackers because, again, we recruited very well there this season. In the secondary, I'm going to add Alphonse Alexander. He played pretty well last year at Cal. And then at safety, we were blindsided by losing Darius Penny, whose recruitment is open. Honestly, I kind of want to bring him back. I think we're going to put him on the board. And then ranked ahead of him by quite a bit is Amon Carson from Purdue. He's also younger than Penny as well. We're going to include him, a versatile piece who can line up all around the defense. So that's 16 players on the board. The goal is to get roughly half, maybe 6, 7 of them. Our biggest needs are the flashiest positions. We have 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, and 3 receivers. Of the QBs, I think Southern Miss's Sonny Wilkin would be best equipped to start a game tomorrow. He's athletic, he's got a strong arm. His accuracy ratings are kind of low, even though he was pretty efficient last year. If you guys thought Clyde Poole was crazy, wait until you watch Wilton's Sommelier the Younger. 94 speed, but instead of being short, he is 6'5". The problem is he is even far worse than Clyde Poole as a passer. Very high turnover rate, very low completion percentage. He is very much a wild card. Of the 3 quarterbacks, I would argue Ace Morgan's ratings are the most polished. He's the most accurate of the group. He's the best under pressure, which is weird because he's the one in this group who hasn't played yet. He's just not as athletic as either Wilkin or Sommelier Viunga. At running back, Chris Mickens of UMass. Looks like the real deal. You don't get 1,600 yards by accident. 97 change of direction, 96 juke move. He can make you miss in a phone booth. Ramir Clark would be more of the long-term addition, though. He's only going to be a true sophomore next year, and he looks quite good in his own right. Had a solid freshman year at Maryland. Jaden Granger, meanwhile, I like his skill set. 1,300 yards at Jacksonville State. If we get him, he would probably play running back because he's quite good there. But I think he'd be a good receiver as well. So if we do land him, maybe we use him that way. Daniel Caffrey of Iowa looks rock solid. Reasonably athletic, good hands, good route running, minus the deep game. He can block as well. He looks like the perfect number 2 for Nazir Ishmael. Dexter White, a little bit faster, good route runner, and he has 88 throw power. Why? I don't know when we would use that, but I guess it's worth noting. And then Xavier Bacon honestly looks pretty polished in his own right. He's just kind of slow, but I think he could be a good number 3 or number 4. Jack Stetsko, very athletic. Not really a tight end yet. He's not very strong and he can't block. We would definitely have him bulk up in terms of weight if we land him. Emmanuel DeRougy, good finesse, good power. The block shedding rating is low, but he was a very good run defender last year, and the same can be said for Leon Cashman. That's why I put those two guys on the board. They both had a lot of TFLs. As for Yoshi Kamara, very impressive pass rusher for a guy who couldn't find the field at USC last year. I'm surprised they didn't get him a role. Alphonse Alexander, not the fastest, but very good ball skills. Honestly looks more like a safety. Could be a dime defender or a nickel defender, which is something we could use. Darius Penny, I don't know why I scouted him. We have 13 games of film. And then Amon Carson, I think he's quite a bit more raw than both Alexander and certainly Darius Penny, but he's athletic, he's versatile. If we do lose Penny, Colby Cook, who was our primary nickel defender last year, will probably have to play safety. So one of those other guys could easily line up in the slot. So I'm going to end up giving these guys 25 points, not 50, because we need all the points we can get for our transfer portal players. Most of them I'm going to start with 25, except for Chris Mickens, because I know I'm going to have to go all out if we want to get him. So it's all or nothing. We're going to put 50 points on him, and then pretty much everybody else here is going to get 25. So that is how we're going to use our points here for stage number 1. And now it's a matter of seeing which of those guys, because most of them did not have us on their list, are going to be interested. Most of those guys had open recruitments. So it was more so, let's see what we can do with the teams who they are already interested in, but it's unclear if they will be interested back. Chris Mickens were in 4th. Alabama and Notre Dame both want him, which is not a great sign, but I'm not going to give up just yet. We're not in 1st for any of these guys, but I wasn't expecting to. It's only been 1 week, and again, we were not on any of these lists yet, so I'm not too worried about it up to this point. I am worried about these freshmen, though. Rashawn Burden and Carlos Ware, I just don't think we're going to get. Pitt is the lead. Both of them are visiting Pitt this week. I'm especially disappointed about Ware. I think he's going to be really good. As for these guys, we have 610 points to spend, so we're going to be able to turn a lot of these 25s into 50s. Louisiana Tech has the early lead for Sonny Wilkin. He wants to go to Ole Miss. Ole Miss has not offered him yet, but they very well might if they lose out on some of the other quarterbacks. In terms of some of the other storylines here, Ramir Clark, I'm going to take off the board. And the reason for that is I want him to be the backup plan for Chris Mickens. Nobody else has offered him a scholarship yet, so because of that, I'm not too worried about him. If we don't land Mickens, I can still get him. I'm also going to take Yoshi Kamara off. Between him and Cashman, Louisville really wants both. I don't see a world where we can get both. We have a lot of freshman edge rushers as is, so I'm going to prioritize the veteran. We're going to look to add Mitch Myrie at safety. Good cover guy, pretty athletic. Could be an option, again, if we lose Darius Penny. We're able to offer some visits out. Chris Mickens is going to come this week. Alphonse Alexander will visit. And then, I don't know what the point of having Darius Penny come in. What, is he going to visit his old dorm room and his old professors? I don't know, I guess. I mean, he should already know the campus pretty well. He's been here for 4 years. And then Nate Hogg, the quarterback, will come as well. So those guys will visit. That's how we're going to use our points. Everybody is getting 50. We still have 65 points left over, but there's nothing else we can really do for the most part. For Mickens, I thought about trying to guess his pitch because we're going to have to be aggressive and bold with him. I still think it's a little too early. I want to see how the visit goes. It should go well, given that the deal breaker is an A+ for playing time. He's not getting A+ playing time at Alabama or Notre Dame. He would be the RB 3 or 4 on those teams, I think. So we're going to simulate the week again into the 3rd stretch of recruiting. Now, you'll notice I am controlling multiple teams here, and the reason for that is some of the notable players throughout the transfer portal either didn't commit or went to places where they would be backups. So I had to step in and make sure some of the top guys actually went to reasonable landing spots. So as we make it into week 3, it does not look like the visit with Darius Penny went very well. Doesn't seem like he enjoyed the homecoming. He wants to stay in the ACC and go to North Carolina. So it looks like, unfortunately, we will be losing one of our key players and team captains from a year ago. In terms of the quarterbacks, we are not in 1st or 2nd for any of them. I am a little worried about Sonny Wilkin because Ole Miss is now in the mix. The other 2 guys, though, I think we can largely beat the schools who are in the running. So I'm not as worried about them, but it's not looking good for Sonny Wilkin, which sucks because of that trio, he's the guy who I think would have been the most ready to go to start for us. Now that Ole Miss seems to want him, I don't see how we can pass them. So I don't think we have a good chance of landing him. I guess I'm going to keep him on the board for now because where else are we going to use these points? But I'm not overly confident, and I'm going to really focus my attention on the other two quarterbacks, Somali Aviunga and Ace Morgan. We're going to have one of these guys visit in week 3, and then the other will visit in week 4. While we're on the subject of visits, Chris Mickens came to the campus last week, and his visit went pretty well. As I expected, we've climbed into second place. Alabama still is the lead, but we've made up a lot of ground. I'm getting pretty confident that we're going to get him because Alabama and Notre Dame are probably going to be the two teams we're competing for. He wants to play. I don't see how he's playing at either of those spots. Alabama's probably going to get Evan Sutton, along with both their top 2 running backs from last year returning. Notre Dame is bringing back their top 3 running backs, including Amari Blue, who might be a first-rounder in a year from now. So because of that, I like our chances with Mickens. I'm not going to get overconfident yet, though, but I think we have a somewhat good shot. In terms of the other skill position guys, we're looking pretty good. I think I'm going to take Dexter White off the board, though, because I don't think it makes a lot of sense to really put effort into getting him if the other 2 receivers are going to be pretty easy. It's unfortunate that we're losing out on his 88 throw power, but oh well. In terms of the edge rushers, I think we're doing pretty well, but we're struggling with Alphonse Alexander. Seems like he wants to go back to Cal, so we're going to take him off. There's no chance we get him, and there's no chance we get Darius Penny. He's going to UNC. So in terms of our visits, I'm not going to send one to Sonny Wilkins yet. Maybe if we're close again next week, I will. But I'm going to have Somali Aviunga come to campus this week. I'm going to have him go before Morgan because Somali Aviunga is in 4th place. We got to make sure we're in the top 3 for him. So Morgan will come in week 4. And then Jaden Granger, the running back, Elion Cashman, and Amon Carson are all visiting this week. With some of the guys we took off, though, we now have 6 open slots back on the recruiting board. So we're going to give those to the 3-star freshmen who we took off a couple minutes ago. That way they can get their scholarships back. The big storyline, though, going into week 4 will be Chris Mickens. I think we're finally going to really figure out where we stand in this battle. We can start to try to guess the pitch. Luckily, there's only one that fits, which is awfully clutch. Literally and figuratively, since it is the clutch. I don't think Alabama and Notre Dame are good fits for him. I think he should come here, but we'll see if that's what he chooses to do. Otherwise, this is how we will use all of our points. Let's simulate into week 4. We haven't landed any commitments yet this offseason. We'll see if that changes or if they will all come on National Signing Day. So unfortunately, nobody commits to the program this week, but as long as they do by next week, it's okay. Ace Morgan, we've taken the lead for, and he's visiting this week. So it looks like we will be landing a very talented quarterback out of the portal. Sonny Wilkin, however, I think it's a lost cause. Ole Miss and Louisiana Tech are up by too much. It's not going to happen. Chris Mickens, we are in 1st place for. Not by that much. Alabama could still pass us, but we have the lead with 1 week to go. That is really exciting. We are in 1st place for most of these guys. A couple of them were in either 2nd or 3rd, but we've now taken the lead back on a lot of them. I am going to take Sonny Wilkin off the board. Even if he visited this week, it's just not going to happen. Somali Aviunga is still in 4th, even with the visit last week, so I kind of see him as a lost cause at this point as well, which is unfortunate because that's both of the veteran quarterback options now off the board. The bad news keeps coming for us. Running back Chris Mickens' deal breaker has magically become an F. It was just an A+ a second ago. What happened? Now, it has to be an F for Alabama and Notre Dame as well, right? I checked on Alabama, who did land Evan Sutton, the only running back higher than him in the portal. They are an F. And then Notre Dame, who has 3 really good backs already, is also an F. So where is he going to go? He locked out the 3 schools in his top 3. I took Granger off the board because the visit didn't seem to go very well last week. He's going to go to NC State. And Mickens is still an F. So I don't know what's going to happen. All we can really do is sit and pray. Defensive back Amon Carson's visit also didn't seem to go very well last week. He gets to go to Houston this week. Seems like he really wants to go to Louisiana Tech. So with that, we have 3 spots left on the board. I started with running back Silas Sizemore and defensive back Jaleel Hawk. For the last spot, though, I wanted to go with a veteran quarterback out of the portal. I mentioned Zeke Morton was my backup option, but Tulane's given him a scholarship, and he's down to 8. So now we can't go after him, and there are no veterans who I like left. So instead, we're going to put on JUCO tight end Grant Matlock. So that kind of messes my plans completely. This means we are not going to get an established starting quarterback out of the portal. We're probably going to get the kid from Clemson who looks good, but he has 0 collegiate snaps. At this point, we're just going to have to guess the pitch with Sommelier Viunga and hope we get lucky. We would have to catch 3 schools in order to land him. None of those schools are particularly big, but I still cannot say I like our chances because if we would have passed them, it probably would have happened by now. Otherwise, we're going to hope and pray for the best with Chris Mickens. A lot of these guys, though, especially the freshmen, but certainly a handful of these portal players, I think we're going to land as well. So here is the moment of truth. 20 uncommitted players on the board set to announce their commitments. Let's begin. Nate Hogg, the JUCO junior quarterback. So I guess we do get a veteran quarterback in the room, but it's a JUCO guy, which is still something, but I don't know if he's going to be ready to start. Ace Morgan, the quarterback from Clemson, redshirted this year as a 4-star. He will compete with Cam Kingsbury to be the starter. Casey Swinier will be our new kicker. Nick Morris will be the new fullback. Cesar Chavez comes in at wide receiver, along with Alan Tiffin, the edge rusher. All of these 3 stars now committing to us. Safety Trey Masonette. He is joined by another safety, Jaleel Hawk. Tight end, Jack Stesko from Bowling Green. That's an exciting one. We're hoping he's going to be the starter, but he's going to have to add some weight. Cannot play under 200 at tight end for us. Aleon Cashman, the edge rusher from Georgia State. He'll play hopefully a somewhat big role this year. Mitch Myrie, the safety from UTSA. I like his cover ability. We're going to go into a lot more depth in these transfer portal guys in the next episode. Whoa, we got Mickens! Let's go! Chris Mickens, the running back from UMass, is coming to Virginia Tech. He will be our RB1 this year. He's going to be the guy we really focus the offense around regardless of who the quarterback is. He will be the centerpiece for us. Wow, that is exciting. Xavier Bacon, the receiver from Georgia Southern, commits, along with the Iowa receiver Daniel Caffrey, who I'm expecting will probably start on the opposite side of Nazir Ishmael. As I was trying to say earlier, we're going to go into a little bit more depth in the next episode of these transfer portal guys, including Emmanuel DeRougy from Central Michigan. But for now, I'm excited that all of these guys are seemingly coming in. Tremaine Trinidad, Tucker McPhee. Will this ever end? Silas Sizemore, the running back. This might never end. We might get literally everyone on the board. Grant Matlock, the tight end, he commits. So with the 20 uncommitted players, we land 19 of them. The only player who does not join us is the quarterback, Wilthans Sommelier Viunga. He's going to Air Force. They've honestly built a pretty good passing attack over the last couple of years, so that's really not a bad fit. Otherwise, though, this was very successful, landing 19 guys, specifically the running back, Chris Mickens, the second-ranked running back in the transfer portal. Our first recruiting class of the series officially complete with 34 new players joining the program. I think this is a really good class, an intriguing mix of young and old. I think the offensive line especially is really set up well for the future. Our final ranking is 20th, 4th in the ACC, only behind Clemson, Miami, and SMU. Only Clemson ended up with a larger quantity of players than we did. That's what we were really focused on, getting in as many bodies as possible. We landed 8 players from the portal. I originally said 6 or 7 was the goal. We end up with 8. We get 3 JUCO players, and then 23 true freshmen joining the fold. Really fun group. I think a lot of these guys are hopefully going to play as soon as next year. But now it's time for the real moment of truth. The transfer portal across the rest of the country. Where are college football's top stars ending up? Maurice Shiroga, the top player in the portal, joining the ACC. He's going to Miami. Trey Nolan Reese to USC. They know how to use their pass rushers. I think he could really break out with the Trojans as a redshirt junior. And then Judah Yesufu going to Clemson. That receiving core is going to be filthy. Isaac Wan to TCU, missed most of the season at Baylor with an injury, but quarterback Carson Mayfield now gets a true number one wideout. Square Williams, probably, in my opinion, the best defensive player in the portal, goes to SMU. Jerable Hannock, back to Arkansas. The grass ain't always greener, kids. Arkansas convinces him to stick around. Sir Odiah Nobles is staying in the SEC. He's going to Tennessee. What a gut punch for Georgia, not only losing your best player, but losing him to an in-conference rival. I hope these teams play against each other next year. Guard Thad Wagoner back to Clemson. Corner Matt Jordan back to Miami. Again, staying with their previous schools. Safety Humphrey Solomon to Alabama. The Crimson Tide had to address the defense. That was a rough unit last year. Jameel Maul to SMU. I know they have a lot of receivers, but they go 5 deep. All those guys are going to play a lot. Elvis Phantom goes to the reigning national champions, Texas Tech. Last year, the Red Raiders made a similar move in the portal, getting an undersized and underutilized but talented receiver. That guy's name was Caleb Hobbs. 200 yards in the national championship, first-round draft pick. We'll see if Elvis Phantom of Baylor has a similar fate. As for the quarterbacks, a lot of movement. College football has been shaken up, to put it lightly. So Jerable Hannock, the top quarterback, returns to his previous school, but other than that, chaos ensues. Maxwell Logan is going to Notre Dame. It was them and Ohio State. The Buckeyes, though, have a 5-star redshirt freshman who they think is really good and is ready to take the reins. So that kid will be the starter next year. Logan, meanwhile, goes to Notre Dame, where he will replace potential first-round pick Brendan Holloway. His backup will be Tate Nagy. The other Arkansas backup, George Poole, is going back to Arkansas. So I guess the Arkansas backups just love being clipboard holders. I don't know why. Galeo Barron to Ole Miss. That is a huge get for the Rebels. He played very well down the stretch last year for Middle Tennessee State. Ole Miss losing their star quarterback, Zarius Stone, a projected top 3 pick in the NFL draft. That is an awesome replacement for the Rebels. How about Denny Love, who I think is the best quarterback in the portal? He's going to Alabama. Maybe the best situation for any quarterback in the portal. We saw what they did with Kieran Riddle last year. They turned him from an afterthought into the Heisman Trophy winner and the number 1 pick. The difference this time around is that Denny Love is already really good. He was a Heisman finalist at Akron last year. Imagine how good he will be at Alabama. Rodney Oregon to Clemson. I don't know why. He will probably be the backup there. Hoppy Reynolds, another big one. He is going to stay in the SEC, going to LSU. The Tigers just hired Kenny Dillingham as their head coach. Now they bring in Hoppy Reynolds to be the quarterback, his 3rd separate SEC team that he will be starting for. Solomon Seafood at Stanford, big get for the Cardinal, replacing Isaiah Timpf, who obviously had a great year, and they're going to have him probably starting there for 3 seasons. Royal Webb will go to SMU. They are planning for the future, hoping he will be the quarterback once Tyree Wells is gone. I really like this get for Oregon. Coming in from Washington State, Rowan Phoebe played fairly well for the Cougars down the stretch last season, and then, of course, a little bit lower is our guy Ace Morgan. Sonny Wilkin does end up going to Ole Miss. Now, they did get Galeo Barron from Middle Tennessee State, who will be the starter. The thought is that Barron will be the starter for maybe only this year. Ole Miss seems to think he's going to be one and done and then go to the NFL, with the idea that Sonny Wilkin will be the long-term starter. Zeke Morton, meanwhile, ends up going nowhere. Tulane pulled their scholarship. Can we find a way to get him, please? I want a veteran in the QB room. Why did Tulane have to make this difficult? As mentioned earlier, the top running back in the class, Evan Sutton, goes to Alabama. Him and Denny Love sharing the backfield is going to be one of the top quarterback-running back tandems in the nation, especially with Sutton now fully healthy after missing most of the year with an injury. Chris Mickens, as we know, is coming here. Zion Henderson, it seemed like he was going to go to Pitt. I thought we were going to have to deal with him in our conference. Instead, he actually ends up at UCLA, coming off a strong sophomore season a year ago at Buffalo. Milton Brendel III of Texas Tech going to Oregon. I thought he was Texas Tech's most talented running back. I don't know why they didn't use him last year. Granted, they won the national championship, so it worked out, but still. Bryce Rain will compete to be the starter at Georgia. Ramir Clark goes to Michigan State. That's a good get for the Spartans. What about Mark Armstrong? He will be the new starting running back of the national champion Texas Tech Red Raiders. He's certainly going to a school with a bigger brand. How about the team who just won the whole thing? He also gets to return closer to home, which is exciting as well. At receiver, Caleb Grubb to Michigan, Chris Venable to South Florida. He'll replace the role that Jalen Davies-Landiner had. And as I mentioned with South Florida earlier, they're returning Josh Scarborough. They're returning a lot of their other key guys. Ole Miss landed 3 receivers with at least 1,200 yards last year. Marlon Langley, Andrew Oliveira, and Amar Simpkins. So their new quarterback, Galeo Barron, has plenty of weapons to throw the ball to. Not to mention they're bringing back running back Cedric Carter. Tennessee added 3 really good receivers themselves. Georgia losing a lot. Ohio State loses one of their recent 5 stars as well to Maryland. And then Dexter White does end up going to Air Force. The other quick highlights of the portal include Quincy Mwamba returning to Clemson, Devontae Buggs going to Miami, Perfection Winton could have been an NFL draft pick, struggled in the playoff, goes in the portal, but he is returning to Alabama. In the secondary, Ahmad Lacey to Miami, Connor Vernon to Alabama, Donovan Shepard to Louisville. And just scrolling a little bit farther, Dwayne Stanley to the big interception in the semifinals for Alabama is probably going to UCF. At safety, Layden Pape to Tennessee. That's a good get. Amon Carson to Louisiana Tech. Darius Penny to North Carolina. We saw Mark Armstrong use at Texas Tech, while Geronimo Rodriguez is going to Maryland. And then Jasur Bilal ends up at LSU. Emeka Ejere-Tutu, the other guy who entered the portal, is not going anywhere. I kind of warned him that this was going to happen, but oh well. Position changes now. We get our first look at the new roster, our first look at Chris Mickens as a member of Virginia Tech. All of our new true freshmen are here with all of their overall ratings. We recruited 2 athletes this year. Jalen Hunter is a guy I've spoken very glowingly about. We recruited 6 or 7 edge rushers, and he was the lowest ranked of the group. I really think he's going to end up being the best when it's all said and done. And then Cesar Chavez, I thought about tight end. He certainly got the size for it. I think we're going to start at receiver and then maybe figure it out from there. As for guys moving to new positions, there are not too many, but there are a handful. I wanted to balance things out on the offensive line, so Robbie Cones, we're going to switch him to left guard. Ross Daniels, we're going to kick inside. We're also going to have Kyrie Dell move to defensive tackle. I want to move some of our bigger edge rushers there, while Stefan Fina will move to left edge rusher. And then Mitch Myrie will slide over to strong safety. I anticipate he will play the Darius Penny role from last year. Simulating to training results and development trait increases. We've got a couple of guys moving up in dev. Cornerback Elihu Gold goes from normal to impact. I don't know how much that'll help him given that he's a senior. And then Chris Mickens goes from impact to star. Why is his jersey blue? We don't have any blue in terms of our team colors, and neither does his previous school, UMass. He's the highest rated player on the roster as a 90, while Nazir Ismail is right behind him as an 89. I think our team did really well, but the one position that we struggled in is quarterback. Nobody went up more than 3. Ace Morgan only went up by 1. He only has normal development, but his skill caps are really high. So I don't really know what to make of that. Long story short, it is going to be a complicated QB battle because everybody on the roster is fairly close together in terms of talent. Mickens is a 90, but we cannot forget about Esteban Cabrera and Asheville Virgo. They will both certainly play roles for us this year. Caffrey goes up 5. Adams goes up 5. And look at the freshmen. They all went up a lot. Lavelle, Camper, Handy, big boosts. I don't quite think they're ready to start yet. Maybe next year. Stetsko is an 84. I'm super excited about him. Emmanuel Fraboni at left tackle goes up by 8, one of the team's biggest risers. The offensive line, largely the same as last year, with Dante Diamant as an 87. I am a little worried about the edge room. I'm excited about our transfers, but we don't have any stars there per se. I'm hoping Royland Mathis can really step up as a star. He showed some impressive flashes last year, although he was inconsistent. The Best World is tied for our highest rated defensive players in 86, along with Elihu Gold, while Samson Abbott, Smoke Lewis, and Caleb Fleming all pass Jair Hill in terms of rating. Justice Watkins only goes up by 2. That's a little disappointing. Colby Cook up by 5, however. That is pretty exciting. He is now an 82 overall. As for the rest of college football, we'll go into greater detail of these guys later, but we have a couple 99s. Tyree Wells is unsurprisingly the highest rated quarterback, followed by Colin Westwood, Jadel Mathis, and Wyatt Cruz. I wonder what kind of season Cruz is going to have, because all he needs to do with his physical tools is be half decent, and he'll probably get drafted pretty highly. So now we get to the final part of the offseason, encouraging transfers and custom conferences. With our extremely large recruiting class of 34 people, we're going to have to cut down the roster. We need to go down to 85 players, and we currently have 95. We do not need to keep 6 quarterbacks on the team. We're going to cut 1, and I think that's going to be Gabriel Iguanagu. At running back, I thought about some combination of these 3. Keontae Trice-Taylor had a sick kick return touchdown last year, so his special teams value keeps him on the roster. Braden Hasty, I like his skill set. We just never really could carve out a role for him. Tyler Babcock and JoJo Friesen also cut. At defensive tackle, Jerron Weeks will not make the roster. And then in the secondary, Floyd Mercer, Austin Trinidad, and Tristan Steffen will all be encouraged to enter the transfer portal as well. Hopefully these guys can all find new homes and be successful, probably in the FCS or Division II or Division III. So now we get to custom conferences. For this season, I'm only going to make the real changes to the Pac-12, the Mountain West, the SEC now having 9 in-conference games, like a real man's league and not a sissy conference. But otherwise, I'm going to keep everything the same. The ACC will remain, although that could change. The ACC was disappointing last year. Clemson was preseason number 1. They finished the year unranked. Florida State was disappointing. UNC and Pitt were not good. Other than SMU, Stanford, and maybe Miami, the rest of the conference underwhelmed, so we could see some movement here in the future. In case I missed anything with the real conferences, I still have the save file saved at this part of the offseason, so if you guys catch anything in the comments, I can still switch it before we get to the official start of season number 2. Whoa, we're ranked! Number 24, how about that? That's a surprise, but I'll take it. For the non-conference schedule, I'd love to hear your guys' input. My rule for non-conference play is that at least one of our opponents must have made the playoffs last year, and the schedule that the game gave us has us not only playing Notre Dame, but also Texas Tech, the reigning national champions. That doesn't mean we are going to play those 2 schools, but they are interesting opponents, especially Texas Tech, not just because they just won the national championship and are bringing back much of their core, but also because it would be the Mark Armstrong revenge game, and he is officially the starting running back for the Red Raiders this year. They also had us against Notre Dame. Amari Blue might be the best running back in the country. There's a reason why it did not make sense for Chris Mickens to go here. Maxwell Logan, the transfer from Temple, of course, slated to start at the quarterback position. But again, I want to hear who you guys possibly would like to see in terms of non-conference play, and I'll look around the roster, see who potentially I would like to go up against. And since I had the save file back at the custom conferences week, I could still maybe mess around with protected rivals and maybe re-roll our in-conference schedule. I would love to play SMU, although that would be a really hard game. We would probably not fare well, but it would still be fun. I'm excited to also fiddle around with jersey numbers, team captains, redshirting, all that stuff. In the next episode, we'll be able to give a proper introduction for the roster along with the rest of college football, with many of the top rosters changing significantly. And then after that video, we will be guns a-blazing into season number 2. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, we will be moving a lot quicker this year. So buckle up, fasten your seatbelts, because we're going to have a lot of fun. Hope everyone enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Peace out.